It's great to be with you all and once again learning together. The presentation today is entitled A Homage to Luminism, and I'll explain more about Luminism to you if that's something new to you. To put it in perspective, one of our past Grand Masters, Raymund Andrea, admonished us to recognize truth, whatever form it may take. And in this spirit and of the Rosicrucian Digest publication, which features mysticism, science, and the arts, we'll explore the spiritualization of the New England landscapes, seascapes, and culture through Luminist art and American Transcendentalist philosophy. The 19th century paintings of some of the Luminist masters will be featured, and this will be in remembrance of our original homeland. And I'll guide you through some the Rosicrucian laws and principles, because always at the heart of these presentations is the Rosicrucian laws and principles, and getting us more enthusiastic about our Rosicrucian studies or interested in taking them up. As is our practice, first we'll have a period of meditation to elevate our minds and be more receptive to the topic and participate in what Rosicrucians call the work and worship of our order. By worship, we mean recognize the divine within us. By work is make the activity to fulfill our mission in life and achieve self-mastery. So just give me a moment. We'll get up a work of art to help us enter into our meditation. This is by John Frederick Kensett. It's a work entitled Sunset on the Sea, and it dates from 1872, near the close of his earthly life. It's in the collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. It's actually oil on canvas, and it's about 20 inches high and 41 1/8 inches across. I want you to spend some time having a look at it, and I'll explain a little bit more about what Luminism is after our meditation. But I think you'll see here in some ways, a very simplified scene. You have the ocean and you have the sun. And one of the wonderful qualities of the Luminist art, as the title suggests, the movement, Luminism, associated with luminosity and light. And that is in symbolic form is, of course, very important in mysticism. And we were talking earlier about alchemy as well, receiving that inner light within ourselves, which is really a part of our true nature. Because the Rosicrucian order, Amorc, is fundamentally a mystical order. By mysticism, we mean the art and science of love. We mean the capacity to become one with the one, to realize that full depth of our being. Rosicrucians use the term the master within or the divine within, which is our true nature that helps guide us as we mature and grow. This artwork can be used in these capacities because I think if you gaze at the work of art and you know the subtle graduations of light in the foreground on the waves, the many waves suggest the infinity because there's a tremendous range of them, but they also suggest what the Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic keyboard, that we live in a sea of vibrations. And one of the simplest ways to recognize that is, of course, in waves on an ocean, especially when they're lapping up at the seashore. But we sense a tremendous range of vibrations. Up above, we have the clouds, the subtlety of light from a sunset, often associated with the closing of the day, of course, but also the new phase of life, going from the physical into the spiritual. So take some time. Let the light in this painting build. And don't be concerned so much, well, do I like this painting style or not? Let more your inner nature take it in. And just let the light build. And as you feel that light build, you feel it build within yourself. In this regard, I'll give you a quote from a 19th century American mystic and writer, Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his renowned essay, Nature. It dates from 1836. Many of our Rosicrucian concordances often quote Emerson. And he emphasized, and he was a New England Transcendentalist, which I'll describe more in our presentation after the meditation, about how when we're in solitude in nature, which is in a way what we're simulating doing now with this painting, we can experience the divine. And a quote from him says, and I want you to think of this as you look at this painting, "There I feel that nothing can befall me in life. No disgrace, no calamity, which nature cannot repair. Standing on the bare ground," see yourself by the shoreline, "my head bathed by the blithe air, and uplifted into infinite spaces. All mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. One could say no thing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God. Now, with that quote by the mystic Emerson and this renowned painting by John Frederick Kensett, one of the Luminist masters, deeply resonating within us, I invite you now to close your eyes and we'll have a period of meditation. Take what the Rosicrucians refer to as deep neutral breaths, neither holding the inhalation or holding the exhalation. We'll apply the instructions from the Rosicrucian booklet Liber 777. And later in the presentation, Sir Karen will post the resources for this presentation, including for this meditation guidance. So just enjoy taking some deeper breaths. If it's comfortable for you, breathe through the nostrils. That tends to force us to take deeper breaths, filling up the lungs with what the Rosicrucians refer to as the cosmic essence or the vital life force, which implies alchemy. You'll feel the deep relaxation response, but you also feel your body tingling with the life force, being further spiritualized or really realizing yourself as a spiritual being, as Emerson referred to as universal being circulating through me. Just enjoy the rhythm of the breath, just like all those waves in the painting. We're at one with the vibrations of the cosmos. Now we're going to ascend to the heights of the celestial sanctum. The celestial sanctum is a special place to do meditation, described in the book of Liber 777. Now, picture yourself rising up out from your body, using your mind to picture yourself rising from the chair where you're seated, or however you're situated, up out of the room where you are and even the house, and enjoy the ease of ascent and see the neighborhood or the landscape around you. If you're in a city, see the great metropolis and all the lines, the streets, and all its systematic order, and the trees below, bodies of water below, a river below. Just enjoy the exhilaration of the ascent and rise faster and faster and do it with an inner spiritual strength, not so much a physical strength. As you rise up, see the state or the province where you live. Going faster and faster, see the great nation or country where you live, and see the weather systems below, mountains or bodies of water, rivers, oceans, whatever is appropriate for your area and nation. And as you continue to rise, see the continent where you live. And ultimately the hemisphere, whether it be the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere where you live. And as you rise up faster, see the entirety globe, the oblate spheroid of the earth, the beautiful blue jewel that it is, and see the various weather systems, the greens and browns of the continents, the great bodies of water, and sense it revolving about its axis, rotating. Sense the great harmony of order. You may wish to radiate love and well-being back to the earth, to heal the planet, the people there, and all the sentient beings and all the forms of growth, and even what appears in man yet, but still has the life force imbued into it. And rise up faster and faster again and take in the whole solar system. See the great rings of Saturn and a red planet Mars and the fiery ball of the sun, our local star. Start to rise up faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light. We're transcending space and time now. So we do not have that physical restriction. See myriad stars all about you and their various phenomena. Some are pulsars, Some are quasars. Some are binary stars. Some are supernovae, sending tremendous blasts of light forth. Let's speed by all these and enjoy the beauty of them. Going faster and faster, way beyond the speed of light now. Start to sense the nebulae around us, myriad stars, and also start to sense how we're revolving in the great spiraling galaxy of the Milky Way, and pass right out of the great arm where we live and look back at the Milky Way galaxy just like we look back at our solar system. Sense the great axis about the center of which the Milky Way revolves. Some astrophysicists say about a great black hole. Black holes have their important function in the universe and achieving its law of balance for the universe. And let's travel faster and faster, but enjoying the beautiful colors and spiraling arms of the Milky Way galaxy as we see other spiraling galaxies and galaxies in other forms and more nebulae and myriad stars and going faster and faster. Use great inward strength. This is not the time, rather than source to participants, to be passive. We use this to raise us up the cosmic keyboard in vibrations, faster and faster rates of vibration. We continue to experience the exhilaration of the ascent and the great harmony and order of the universe that the Rosicrucians refer to as a special term, the cosmic. The cosmic is all the natural spiritual laws, but also the universal intelligence back of the universe. Its order we refer to as the term cosmos, the cosmic. As you travel faster and faster, you may get a sense not only the super clusters of galaxies, but also get a sense of the universe itself revolving about a great axis, just as the Earth rotates about an axis, and the planets rotate about the sun and our solar system, and our Milky Way galaxy rotates about an axis. So the universe itself from ancient times is said to revolve about a great cosmic axis, which mirrors the cosmic axis that is our spine in the temple of our body. Just as we have a temple for our body, there are built temples that are inspiring that will apply, but you can think of the temple of God as the universe itself. These are inspiring conceptions that make human life all the more meaningful and give us a much more deeper sense of how to act and behave in our lives in a more mature, spiritualized manner. But keep traveling faster and faster as you sense the great revolving motion of the universe about its cosmic axis. And when you sense where that cosmic axis is, speed towards it faster and faster, towards its midpoint. And as you come to it, slow up and stop there at the midpoint of the cosmic axis, because you can think of there as the celestial sanctum. It's a special place we can imagine our celestial temple, our celestial sanctum. And picture now the celestial sanctum as some inspiring place to you. Maybe an inspiring place in nature, like a great lookout point for high banks over an ocean, or high in a mountain, seeing a great vista of mountains before you, or a beautiful meadow, or a sacred grove in the woods, or maybe a Rosicrucian temple like the one at Rosicrucian Park in San Jose, California, or maybe a Christian temple such as a cathedral, a basilica, or a church, or maybe a Buddhist stupa, or a Sikh gurdwara, or a Jewish synagogue. Fill in all the sights and sounds associated with your temple. Feel exhilarated to be at the center of the universe, at the center of your heart. Fill in, there may be incense, there may be important symbolism in the windows associated with sacred laws and principles. Picture others of like mind there that are seated with you, maybe other Rosicrucians and other seekers. There may be the imperator of our order, the chief executive officer conducting a convocation there. Fill in the sights and sound, make it real to yourself. As you continue to fill in various sense impressions there of this inspiring, exhilarating location, your sacred temple, the center of the cosmos, celestial sanctum, where other sentient beings of like mind meet to commune with the cosmic. When you're ready, just dwell in silence. Enjoy the deep silence, the divine within. As you dwell in silence, I think you'll feel the cosmic essence of the vital life force tingling in your body, very enriching alchemical action to help transform us into the gold of the alchemist. Increasingly experience yourself as a being of light, as the master Jacob Boehme described us. If you find your mind wandering, just lovingly and gently bring it back to the wonderful rhythm of the breath at the center of your being, the center of the cosmos. Sense at this great still center as you commune with the cosmic and the divine. Sense of mind being in all places. Mind of the cosmic mind. Unite with it. Be one with it. Feeling the entire cosmos and beyond. Feel the exhilaration of this conception. Experience it. Be one with. To achieve this oneness, we've applied the law of attunement, in particular the law of cosmic attunement. Let us now apply the law of service and the law of compensation. For as we receive, so we must give back. And that'll help the law of cosmic attunement to be ever more effective in our lives. Let us participate in what the Rosicrucians referred to as the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace. There are those who petition our Grand Lodge and our affiliate bodies for assistance in healing and improvement in their lives. Let us radiate love and well-being to all those persons who have so petitioned, and all those who you know who are in need at this time to be made healing and to be made whole. And all those who are suffering, and all those sentient beings throughout the cosmos. Let us radiate love and well-being to them. Let it flow out from you, from your heart and your mind, just like light flows out from the sun. Just radiate the love and well-being out. Let it flow. Feel the great meaning and value in participating in this healing, applying the law of service. Feel the love and well-being radiating out with tremendous speed out, filling the cosmos. We're all in need. At a certain point, I think you may experience that the flow even increases even faster, and you'll know that it's being received by those in great need. At a certain point, too, you may feel that you don't have to radiate out so consciously. It just keeps flowing on its own. When you experience that, just dwell in the deep silence, the center of your being, center of the cosmos again, assured that the love and well-being is flowing from you. It'll continue always as a way of life, service to all. As we give, that'll assist us to maintain our cosmic communion throughout our lives. Continue to radiate the love and well-being, dwell at the still center. I will formally conclude this period, the work of the Silent Council in conjunction with the Council of Solace. Thank you, fratres and sorors and participants in this great work. Say, as the Rosicrucians do, so be it in truth. This is the cosmic, it is done, so mote it be. Let us continue to dwell at the heights of the celestial sanctum, and we'll soon conclude formally our period of meditation as well. You may wish at this time to also apply the law of gratitude, this opportunity to commune with the cosmic, be one with the one, and experience truly who we are all along. We'll let this experience flood into our daily life, recharged, rejuvenated, all the more ready to fulfill the duties in our life. In times of celestial sanctum ascension, we thought of like mini retreats in our lives. Heal ourselves, strengthen ourselves, mature ourselves, evolve ourselves spiritually. Now, with a prayer of gratitude on our lips, this opportunity to be of service. To participate with our fellow seekers and fratres and sorors. Let us depart from the celestial sanctum, and let us begin our great descent again, past the superclusters of galaxies, myriad stars and galaxies, some spiraling, some in other forms, faster and faster back, enjoying the exhilaration of the descent. See in the distance the great spiraling galaxy, our Milky Way, our home. Then see the great arm where our home is, and descend back into it, past the myriad stars and stellar phenomena of pulsars, quasars, black holes, supernovae, red giants, white dwarfs. Come to our solar system, see the great fiery ball, our sun, our star. Great harmony and order of the planets revolving about it. See the beautiful blue jewel of the earth again. As you speed down towards it, come to the hemisphere where you dwell, continent, the great nation, and the planet, I should say the province or the state. And come back to the city or geographic area you are. You can say with me, "May the God of my heart sanctify this attunement of self with the celestial sanctum. So be it in truth, so mote it be." And then descend down on the city or geographic area you are, to your house or wherever you are, back in the room or however, in the chair or however your position. And when you're ready, you can stretch and open your eyes, and we'll formally begin our presentation. Thank you. A homage to Luminism. I'll give you some resources to deal with Luminism and some of the things I'm referring to through Karen when she posts in the group chat later. But I wanted to show you one of the renowned paintings of Luminism. It's entitled "Schooner Passing Castle Island in Boston Harbor." It dates from 1874 and was painted by Francis Augusta Silva. And it's in the Old State Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. I think many of you have visited there and seen this wonderful work of art. And you notice, similar to the work that we saw before this, that it shows a waterscape or a seascape, and we see the myriad waves suggestive of the vibration infinity. And we see again a great building light as a schooner passes Castle Island, and we see in the distance light touches here, banks, and the passage of light here, which is a way like our own passage in light. If there was different viewers, they'd see the passage of the sunlight in a different place, but it's all going back to the one source, the one divine within us. You see, the paintings at this time were being done at a highly spiritualized philosophy, was very well known and common in 19th century United States, which has had a profound effect on the United States and the world ever since. You know, there's the Transcendentalist movement. Some of the renowned Transcendentalists that you may be familiar with, or persons who are greatly influenced by them in the arts, and because the Transcendentalists were great reformers in terms of dealing with the abolition of slavery or equal women's rights. Some of the persons who were associated with the Transcendentalists were highly influenced were Elizabeth Peabody, or Emily Dickinson, or Margaret Fuller, or Louisa May Alcott, or Elizabeth Cady Stanton, or Lucretia Mott, and also figures like Bronson Alcott, David Henry Thoreau, and Ralph Waldo Emerson that I quoted earlier. You know, some distinctive characteristics of Transcendentalism that had a profound impact on the Luminist art that I'm speaking more about shortly. You may recall that some of the essential characteristics of that Transcendentalist philosophy is something that mystics everywhere would strongly identify, including Rosicrucians. There's an essential idea that the portion or a spark of divinity resided in each of us and could be accessed by a transcendental self. Rosicrucians would know that as the inner self, the divine within, or the master within. And this idea gained a great value during 19th century America, particularly in New England. And it had a great authority in terms of a way of understanding the world because of the role played by this inner voice. And the individual soul was identified with what Emerson called the oversoul. Part of this he was getting from Western and Eastern spiritual philosophy. There was books like the Bhagavad Gita that were getting translated and coming into the United States and being more well known. So the oversoul, or the world soul, which we know from earlier Western mysticism and alchemy as well. Some would even refer it to as the divine. Another important part of Transcendentalism is that the details of our own experience. You see, mysticism very fundamentally about our experience, first and foremost. What have we experienced? Not what we think, but how do we follow through in action in our experiences? But our own experiences form like a microcosm of overall existence. As we become more mature, we're able to understand more of others and all things. In a way, this painting is like a microcosm of the experience. We see that too, like here in the small dinghy or a rowboat, like ourselves in the passage of life, and they're moving towards the schooner that can help take them to the great ocean, and the path of light takes us out to the divine. I think as you look at this work, as with the previous one, that the light builds, and it's like that tremendous radiation of love that we did when we did the work of the Silent Council, radiating love and well-being to all. We see further out very subtle details of other ships, but often be a expression of the passage of light. I know many of you have often enjoyed seeing sunrises and sunsets that often suggest to us our true home, our original divine estate that we're working to return back to. You know, some of the characteristics of Luminism I'll describe, and the person who's been very good on that is the art historian Barbara Novak, particularly in her essay in American Light. They'll be in the resources I've given you. One of the things that's very common in Luminist artworks, particularly during 1850 to 1875, though there was building up to them before and works after. You know, our historians are very interested. You know, what are the sources of art? Well, this is a new word. This is a new expression of art. It's only particularly I would say, in the last 50 years that it's really started to be much more recognized for this major work of art, not only for the United States, but for the world that was going on in that time of a highly spiritualized nature. You know, our past imperator, Christian Barnard, admonished us to know well our land where we grew up and its culture. And so us growing up in the Americas, this is one of the various important ways to spiritualize it. Be aware of the Luminist art movement. This is how the landscape in New England and beyond was spiritualized and ennobled and enriched, and give us a more sense of what it is to be a spiritual being living in the Americas. One of the characteristics that our historians know about what they describe as Luminist. There was our historian named Dr. Baer in the 1950s wrote a very beautiful article about Luminism and talked about it as a neglected form of art, and that helped build up it being much more recognized. One of the structures that Novak and others talk about is that the works are highly structured. You notice the way that this artwork is set out. We have in the foreground the human forms and the subtle graduations of the waves. But then moving back towards the midground, we have this great schooner. And in the background, we move past Castle Island, but also to the great body of the ray of the sun taking us in. The move into the work by the waves suggests details. You get a sense of all those detailed waves. There's sort of a sense of great harmony and order and all the constituent parts of nature. We also have a great sense of stillness. The atmosphere is very thick. Artworks for Luminist, highly structured in thinking of alchemical terms of earth, the air, the fire, and the water. The atmosphere is very thick. It's very charged, imbued with, one would say, spiritual energy, but also with the water. You can almost feel like you can reach out and take hold of the air. So it's structured on a horizontal. You see the wonderful horizon, low, but also giving a sense of the light in the sky that we're being spiritualized into. Structured too with the various boats, islands, very subtle lights in the distance, the high banks there, and the dinghy. Also in measure, things are very carefully placed, center or in a harmonious proportional area. There's also what's called planarism. You have distinct planes, yes, of the water and of the sky and of the sails that we're working with. So we're working with number and geometry, in some ways very much like a Pythagorean way to get us attuned with the cosmic. There is also respect for the local indigenous characteristics, and that some would describe it as primitive or something folk art. Some of the Luminist artists were self-taught, but they were very strong artists. Almost you think that they were taught in previous incarnations where they learned very quickly. Some were very formally taught, though, as well. But there's a lot of elements associated with what we refer to as folk art in these paintings, including the respect for one's local place, that profound things are in one's local environment as well. Light is very important, as you'd expect in art and works that have been described. It's an after-effect art historical labeling, Luminism, but it's a very suitable one. There's many artists working in this type, just like Francis Augustus Silva, or as Ken said, as I showed you before. I'm going to show you some more before we finish up in a little while. There was a kinship in these artists. Many of them knew each other, and they were teachers. Many of them had been in earlier in their lives commercial artists or commercial illustrators. Many of them had served as soldiers, many in the Confederate Army during the Civil War, because of course we're getting around that time period, great upheaval in the United States. There's another feature about those artists, technically referred to as art historians, as some described as stroke. And I'll show you another luminous artwork here. This is by Sanford Robinson Gifford. And this is October in the Catskills. And I know some of you know very well the Hudson Valley. And there's a school of artists called the Hudson River Painters. And there's an overlap, some of the same painters that were in one school are also in the other. And Sanford Robinson Gifford was an example in point. This is a work of art that has more verticality, that is true, but it also has strong elements of luminism. You see the light just imbues the landscape. We have an autumn scene there. You just feel the great warmth of the light in the leaves that have changed their color. And we have that thickened environment. Again, well structured. You see, we have this high lookout point in the foreground, but then there's a tremendous drop off to the valley below. And then we see off in the distance the Catterskill Falls, one of the renowned falls in the Catskills. I know many of you have hiked near and so forth. And go further back, we then have like that great divine light suggesting the divine who within in the heavens above, the light touches of the cumulus clouds above the flowing of water. Again, working with the earth, air, fire, and water of the alchemists. But the stroke, you see in a way, just like with the Silva painting, the schooner in the water, the artists used extra linseed oil, or similarly, they made it so that their paint brushes could not be seen. In a way, they erased themselves. There was a letting go, a surrendering of themselves. And just like Emerson's quote there of being pulsating with the universal being, in a way, we apply here the law of suggestions, that true, you're looking at a work of oil, in a sense, even more removed because it's coming to you electronically through various vibrations of light, but a painting that's suggesting going beyond the artist, but also being one with the particular setting and being one with the one, which is the ideal of mysticism. So often we think we have to close our eyes to do meditation, but these spiritualized works of the Luminists, if you take your time looking at them, you'll find them highly meditative. You can be very enriched by just taking a half hour with them, because in a way you get it on tune with the artist and ultimately that divine inspiration that they had. Here's another inspiring work by Sanford Robinson Gifford. It's entitled An Indian Summer's Day on Tappan Zee. I think many of you know that Tappan Zee, that great widening in the Hudson River, which many of the luminist painters like to paint in. Much of the luminism centered in Boston, it's true, but then it moved out there. A lot of the work was being done in New York State and then also further out. There's many other artists around the world at that time, for example, in Scandinavia, that were painting similarly. Part of the inspiration of the Luminists were artists like French artists from earlier time, like Claude Lorraine, or some of the inspired 16th century Dutch artists. But the Luminists adapted it and changed it, just like the Impressionists working at a similar time period adapted and changed this. It's fitting I mentioned the 17th century Dutch painters, because I think, as you know, Tappan Zee, there's the part of the rich heritage of the Dutch in the United States. And there's some renowned stories associated with that area that have a profound mystical and psychic impact. For example, the story of Sleepy Hollow, and the story of the headless horseman and his great rides at night. And also the great and memorable story of Rip Van Winkle and its association with the law of reincarnation. You notice here that the way this painting has been structured is that you could almost flip it up and down. There's a mirroring, as above, so below. We have a person here in a rowboat with a subtle graduation. Again, Gifford has removed himself the strokes. You just see things as the water and the sky are merging each other. You see wonderful reflections of light from the schooners and the sailboats, and you can just barely make out the horizon. He's just mirroring the water, the Tappan Zee, the great widening of the Hudson River with its sky. And again, it's October, the leaves have changed their color. There's been a great action of a biological nature, but some say symbolically, God painted the trees, leaves. And you'll notice this various subtle details of persons and structures along there. You've got a great sense of oneness that's associated with mysticism and transcendentalism. Let me show you another great luminous painter by one of the masters, Fitzhenry Lane. You may actually have known him from earlier decades as Fitzhugh Lane. His initial is H, but it was realized by, I know many of you are doing more geological research online. It's easier to find about archives of people's backgrounds and their families. And it was realized that the H initial in the middle name of his paintings actually stood for Henry, not Hugh. And so that was a little bit of a surprise to some art historians that have been referring to him for decades as Hugh as a middle name. This is Boston Harbor, and it dates actually from about 1850 to 1855. At that time, Fitzhenry Lane was at the heights of his powers. He was some of the earlier Luminists. He was greatly influenced by a British-born painter you may know, Robert Salmon, who settled in Boston in 1828 and flourished wonderfully as a marine painter. There was patrons of these great ships that were very interested in getting these paintings. But again, you see Lane has situated the horizon relatively low so you can have a spectacular sky viewed with energy. I remember when we had our Rosicrucian University International RCI course at Johann Kelpius Lodge in Boston a few years back. This was one of the paintings that we discussed because we had a tour. I took the students through the Boston Museum of Fine Arts where this is. You know, in 19th century in Boston, it was known as the New Athens. It was an ideal that it would be a rebirth in culture, and Fitzhugh Lane's work was part of that. You see again the waves suggesting the myriad motion and vibrations, but also like earlier paintings, there's this wonderful stillness and solitude, sense of solitude that Emerson spoke of. And in solitude, we go deeper into the divine within us. The light, again, coming forth, the graduations of color and the sea of vibrations of all associated the manifestations of a white light. The sails are somewhat like, almost like skeletal forms. They're very beautiful and symbolic in their white and the passage through life. You notice further back here, there's also a white steamboat. And these artists are very aware of the changes in technology and the way of life that's going on in 19th century America, that these great sailing ships would soon, they would continue but not be as common as different types of transportation, such as a steamboat would come in and be more common in later other forms. I think as you look at the painting, you notice various details. Here we've got, for example, a barrel floating. We have people undertaking various actions, maybe rowing out to the ship or back to shore. Various parts of the harbor you may recognize. Thinking on the water theme here is quite a dramatic work by Luminist artist Martin Johnson Heade. It's entitled Approaching Thunderstorm. It dates from 1859 and it's the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. You see the wonderful contrast between light there, between the light and the dark. And we see in the foreground a dog and a person in a very everyday situation, looks smoking possibly a pipe, the white of a sail here in the foreground, but then in the midground, the person rowing possibly to rowing there, possibly get out of the storm. But very dramatically at the center, there looks like a person standing with a white sail, It's almost like a spiritual being. And we see the great, you could say, sheets of rain coming down the darkened sky. And we see here the beautiful green jutting landscape coming in. Our eyes, with that motion across here, keeps returning to the central figure here. Well, yes, we'll come to the foreground figure, but we'll keep coming back to the center there. We sense a great energy and actions in nature, but also a tremendous stillness that one feels just as a storm is approaching. Another work I want to show you by Martin Johnson Heade, and I've allowed here, this is again a painting from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You'll see that it's out of its frame. You'll see that there's actual edges of the canvas. So again, suggests the movement into the painting, into the space in nature. It's actually on a flat canvas, but by law of suggestion, he's given us a recession or receding back. Here, this is the Newbury Port Meadows. Heade was very interested in the salt marshes along the Atlantic coast. And I know there's been great work, particularly in this new century, for conservation of these important ecosystems. You notice here the great haystacks, and then in the foreground we have the meadow plants and pond-like structures here, but also in the midground we have the farmers at work with the wagon and the horse. Moving further back in the background, we see these great, again, radiations of light of the very thick atmosphere that we're associated with, but also a sense of stillness that's so important to the luminous works. The luminous works tended to be small in size, very intimate, but then they would draw you into a vast space and a suggestion of the infinite. Another work I'd like to show you before we close up is by the Albert Bärstadt, and he's renowned for the Hudson River School and also the Rocky Mountain School during the 19th century. But some of his paintings had very much luminous qualities that I've been describing. This is entitled The Shore of the Turquoise Sea. It's oil and canvas. It's a fairly large work, actually, 42¼ inches high by 64½ inches. And it's inscribed, because many of these artists would travel widely in the Americas and beyond. It's described as off the island of New Providence, one of the Bahamas, a little west of San Salvador. And this was on exhibit in the Alexander Gallery in New York in 1983. You notice the wonderful foreground here. We see various details of the shoreline, subtle colors of light here, and we have undulating seashore with the sand, but it's also imbued with the water as the waves come in. He was a great painter of mountains, but he's made, in a way, this wave coming in that's got the light back of it and the green and the turquoise. In a way, it's a monumental, like a mountain. Our eyesight keeps coming back to it, and the spray of light there, and the rock here. Again, we see the earth, air, fire, and water. There's also the suggestion of passage of time through like a mast here that's washed up on the shore from a ship, but also the way that he's frozen time. It gives you a sense of eternity. Not only the sense of passage of time from beginning of time to end of time, but eternity now as a highly spiritualized experience of the consciousness of the cosmic or cosmic consciousness. He's got subtle graduations of light at the back where we can see some ships there. So we get sort of a microcosm of the macrocosm in this one very subtle, beautiful painting. The final painting before we finish it up and have some time for discussion is a very simplified painting, and one of the relatively later luminous paintings. It's done by John Frederick Kensett, and it's entitled Eaton's Neck, Long Island. And it's from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it's oil and canvas, and it's 18 inches by 36 inches. And it was in the later part of Kensett's life, shortly before he passed away. Many of his friends and art historians were surprised to see his work because they see the strong luminous elements, but also in some ways he's simplifying the works. And he was way ahead of his time because he's anticipating the abstract expressionism that would become so popular in New York City as it became one of the great centers of art, in some ways eclipsing what Paris had been in the 19th century. You notice how strong lines, he's structured again with that low horizon, but there's a powerful curving action of the water. We see the subtle graduations of the waves here. Beautiful sand beach also having those graduations, but also the sense of motion coming down of the beach at Eaton's Neck, Long Island. And we see water beyond, but then the subtle graduations of the waves starting to move towards the lighter blue sky, not merging as much as we saw in that depiction of Tappan Zee and the Hudson by Gifford, but still also a sense of unity of the water, the earth, the air and the sky, but also fire through the light and the force of life throughout the work. It's a very powerful work. I think if you look at it, I think you get a strong sense of divine presence of it. You in a way, again, it's removing the stroke of the artist, painter, removing sort of, the artist is surrendering, just as we need to surrender to come to the divine within. And we also surrender in a sense of like we're in a landscape, but also we have a sense of a universal creation. And we have that oneness with the cosmic that we had when we ascended to the heights of the celestial sanctum. At the same time, we have the infinite details, but also we have more the simplification and sort of a way, going beyond sights and sounds. Augusto Silva talked about how, in a way, his works, he wanted to go beyond emotion. He wanted to go beyond thought. And for many who are very materialistic in their thinking, they would think, well, isn't that what's left of the human? But to the mystic, the vast majority of the humans left in those deep parts of ourselves going to the subconscious and to the cosmic. So in our presentation today, we've had a chance to look at the Luminist art movement. In a way, wherever we are, always be on the lookout and vigilant for the more spiritual aspect of things and that deeper, mature interpretation. And that way, we have a great sense of well-being and see the more harmony and order of the cosmic, associated with the spiritual philosophy of the Transcendentalists. That was very inspiring to the Luminists, and some were very well versed in, we know from their writings, but also from their very inspired works that have passed down to us. One of the great service that art and philosophy can do us, because it can help attune us with the Rosicrucian laws and principles, be more aware of how to apply them, because just as we experience the cosmic, we are to emulate it, just like the Luminist painters did. It's our mission in life to do likewise. Thank you very much.